So here I am prompting the new ChatGPT 01, the new version, with a prompt to make Flappy Bird in 3D using JavaScript. I'm giving it a fairly long prompt, getting it to explain what I want, how I want it to code, and make sure you're telling it you're a really good coder. That's standard practice now for the previous versions. I actually think maybe with this newer model, it's not as necessary to over explain your prompts, because the nature of it is thinking in steps now, and it gives you the steps anyway. So that was much more essential to make the other versions go through the step-by-step process, but now not as essential, but I did it anyway because that's just what we're used to doing. So I asked it to give me the steps before it gave me any code anyway, so I could just look over them. I didn't actually end up looking over them. I just wanted to see what it was going to try and do beforehand, and I was trying to get it to use different libraries. It didn't really want to do that, but it gave me some code, and as we will see now in a second, the code did something, and that something was not work. It had an error, and the error was to do with it was failing to import 3JS correctly, so I had to go back and import a different version of 3JS, and then that seemed to make everything start to work for us. And so here we have a nice red block for our bird, and it flaps, it jumps up too high for this game, and I also had side-to-side movement because I was trying to make it kind of also be like Temple Run, where it would turn left and turn right, and so I added that into the prompt at the beginning. And it put in not turning but moving to the left and right, and it's trying to now dodge the pipes left and right. Not exactly like Flappy Bird, but a good start nonetheless for a first run of its code. But this isn't exactly what we're looking for now, is it? So I went back to ChatGPT and asked it for some improvements. Get the game closer to what we were expecting, more Flappy Birdie. And instead of just giving it one thing to do at a time, like with the old versions, I gave it multiple things. I threw multiple different problems for it to solve at once. And it kind of managed to almost do it, but not exactly. As you can see now, we have better flapping, and we have gaps in the pipes for us to go through, which is a definite improvement. Gaps are still way too small for us to be useful, and the ground is like way too high up, so the bird immediately crashes into the floor from starting. So a few little tweaks here and there, I'm prompting it in to make it have those improvements so we can actually get playing. Bigger gaps and lower the floor. Still not working, immediately crashing into the floor again, so back to ChatGPT we go to try and fix that. Just getting it to lower the floor again, and also the visual of the floor, which is separate to where it collides with the floor. These are separate measurements. And now you'll see we have something of the game working. The bird flies forward and crashes into the pipes. The pipes are spawning all in the same place though, and that's a difficulty, but you can see there is different variation in the heights of the gaps in the pipe, which is a good thing. That's what we want, just we need to improve it now to spread out those pipes. So back to the chat we go and see if we can get that fixed. And so far ChatGPT has been handling itself well, solving anything I've thrown at it, except for this time we have a tiny error here, but easily solved. And now we have a working version of the game, and I also made the pipes wider because they didn't need to be such skinny little things, but we can see the gaps are bigger, the pipes are coming up in one after another, and you've got to flap through the gaps, which is exactly like Flappy Bird. Obviously the wrong colors, but pretty good so far. And you can also see I'm trying to test out the turning thing, and there's a wall that you're supposed to run into after every so often, but it's not exactly working as expected. Nowhere near like Temple Run. Try and get ChatGPT to solve that for us in a bit. First I thought I might get the colors closer to what we're expecting, so a green for the pipes and yellow for the bird. Also giving ChatGPT all of my code so we are on the same basis and there's no confusion, because I've tweaked some of the settings in there and I wanted us to be on the same page. At this point, I thought it was probably good for us to get a 3D model in there instead of using just blocks. So I went and found a 3D model for a bird and a 3D model for the pipes that we can use. And I downloaded them and prompted ChatGPT to use them in the game again. And this is now the game with a bird and pipes in it. So there's the pipes. Where's the bird? Well, the bird is actually there. It's just tiny bird. So we need to make the size of the bird much bigger on our screen, and then we have a basic version of this game working like we want it to. But the bird is facing the wrong direction, so we need to flip that around, go back to ChatGPT, ask it how we flip the bird around, and then we should have a better version of the game working. And you see the bird does actually do a little bit of a flap and rotate up and down. So just asking for those changes, also asking it to make the ground bigger so we can see the ground the entire time and not just at the start. And here we have it working now a lot better. We have a full ground plane, the floor plane extends continuously, and we have a bird hopping up and down, just like Flappy Bird. Apart from the fact the direction thing here, as you can see, does not work at all. We are just getting lost. There's no actual turning left or right, it just kind of moves. But there is some sort of turning going on because you get confused in which direction you're facing. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I think it's probably best if we just remove that entire section in altogether and go for a standard Flappy Bird version of the game. So here I'm also trying to get it to make the score work. The score isn't actually going up every time we go past a pipe. So I had to get into ChatGPT and try and figure that out with it. And that was a bit of a wrestling thing to do with it. I also changed to a bigger bird or more cartoon bird. Way too big when I imported it, but I think it suits this type of game better than the more realistic bird. A giant big blue bird. And there, it's a better size for it now. But you can see in the top left, the score is not working at all for us. And this is the thing it struggled with the most in trying to solve. And I really actually had to handhold it to get it to solve it and tell it what I thought was going wrong. But eventually we did get there and get the score working. So it would increase with each pipe. The thing was, it was counted all of the pipes in one go as one item. So as soon as you went past the first one, that counted, and then all of the rest were all part of that one object. And I had to get it to give individual IDs to each pipe as it came along, and that way it would only count the individual IDs, and then we could rack up the scores that way. So I'm not sure if that was the most ideal way of doing it, but that's what it decided to do. And but we got it working in the end, and that's the most important thing, and that's basically the game then, isn't it? We got a Flappy Bird flapping, we got the pipes, we got the score counter, and we could tweak it to make the settings or the difficulty of the pipes and how fast you flap and all of this, and tweak the visuals as well to make it better and better. But at this point, that's just tweaking the existing code base, nothing new for ChatGPT to do. So I think we will leave it here. It's pretty good for what it did. It took me about an hour and 45 minutes to do, hour 46 minutes, which isn't too bad, and 14 steps, 14 prompts with ChatGPT, which is fairly few considering the complexity of creating something like this. And that is because with this new model, you can absolutely throw in multiple problems, multiple steps into it at once, and it is able to solve these. Not always perfectly, like with the scorecard thing. It did not get that right straight away, but we had to work on that one individually. But the rest of the time, I was throwing in 3-4 different things for it to solve, and it would solve all of them. And no fails, no fail loops. With the old models, you'd always run into these massive issues and errors and fail loops over and over and over, and it just wouldn't be able to solve things, and you'd be throwing in errors from the code, from the console log to it constantly. I only had to do that a few times here. So there is a significant improvement now with the actual code it outputs, but it wasn't as simple as I thought it would be for Flappy Bird. I thought it would be able to do it better, and it still got confused with trying to remix it with Temple Run. It really did not do that part well at all. I thought it would be able to just kind of make that work. Maybe it doesn't know the game Temple Run too well. It's not as popular as, say, Flappy Bird, but I thought it would be able to figure that out. It didn't. I'm sure with a lot more coding and prompting, we could have made that happen within the game, but I was thinking for this example, we had gone far enough and it didn't really need so much more development. That would be way too much effort for what this was. But yeah, that's it. Goodbye. See you soon. More ChatGPT or AI videos probably coming soon. Have a good one.